We have live team coverage tonight, which we begin with my colleague Kristi Tedesco live at the scene right now. Kristi.
Tom, I talked to a detective years ago, and he said at any given time in Tucson, there are probably 50 children in this situation in Tucson that we don't even know about. And today we got word of one home just behind me where 3 little girls, according to Tucson police, were kept away from the public and partially away from each other for up to 2 years, not allowed to bathe for months. And it happened at 4 o'clock in the morning. Frantically, a doorbell was ringing, and News 4 Tucson's Lupita Murillo was here. She spoke with that neighbor who answered the door for those little girls very early in the morning today.
The remains of little Roman were found. Kristi?
Yeah, Tom, this is a pretty sad scene to see. I'm going to step out of the way, and Danny Bavaro, my photojournalist, is going to let you see this backyard. Back here is where 3-year-old Roman Barreras was found in a toy chest, which was inside an outside structure, if that makes any sense. Apparently, he was relegated to this outside structure quite often. And then there are the papers that you see there on the ground that Danny was showing you. They're in plain view. Everybody can see them, dating back as far back as 2009, but they show that the family has been struggling and getting state assistance for quite some time. In fact, there's one document, plain view, that Raymond Barreras' access health care coverage was discontinued shortly after his birth. Yeah, Tom, using the so-called Rule 11 process, this neighbor was found incompetent to stand trial, even though by all accounts he confessed to molesting the little boy. The case was dismissed. There was no punishment, no protections put in place for other kids. So we asked, how is this justice? Did prosecutors do everything they could? Tonight's Kristi's Kids investigation. I'm doing a story on what happened with you and the little boy. And I was hoping you could talk to me about that. On the far west side, there is a man living with his parents who has confessed to molesting a former neighbor.
My son was molested by this neighbor who was 30 years old. My son was 12 at the time.
This woman we'll call Paula has a son we'll call Steve. Steve and that neighbor became friends years ago. The two would shoot hoops together, ride bikes, go to U of A basketball games.
My son trusted this person.
Then, when Steve was 10 years old,
he had sex with him. He penetrated his, and he made him give him.
Kristi's Kids uncovered documents that laid out the alleged crime. Steve told police it happened in the neighbor's backyard shed on multiple occasions. It went on until Steve was 12, and when Steve told a relative, police got involved. According to this Tucson police document, the neighbor confessed to all of it. He told police he thinks it's wrong what he did to Steve, but does not understand why it's wrong. And he also said he knows it's against the law, but he did it because he was curious. The grown adult was booked into jail that night and indicted. 2 counts of child molestation, 5 counts of sexual conduct with a minor. The matter went to court, and the Pima County Public Defender asked for a competency evaluation. According to that request, the accused has been diagnosed with mental retardation. That means the court found the defendant is unable to understand the nature of the proceedings and assist in his defense. He is therefore incompetent. The charges were dismissed without prejudice. Paula called Kristi's Kids.
What was his reaction?
She asked if he understood. He said yes. I mean, he was very happy to be walking out of that courtroom.
He walked and didn't have to register as a sex offender. He also didn't have to go to a mental health facility. He was never prosecuted. An apparent dead end.
It makes me feel that I did not protect my son.
It's a situation that's, it's disappointing.
Alan Goodwin was the prosecutor in this case. He told Kristi's Kids the law clearly states a person found incompetent to stand trial cannot be prosecuted. He says lawmakers have the power to change that.
Our office has let it be known that we're concerned.
But Kristi's kids learned through our independent legal experts that there is an option for these cases, a separate law where the accused can still be tried to see if they're a sexually violent person. State Law 36-3705 says a person can be detained in a licensed facility if they're found incompetent to stand trial and they have a mental disorder making them likely to engage in acts of sexual violence. We tried asking Goodwin by phone why this wasn't pursued. Deputy County Attorney Kathleen Mayer stepped in to explain.
We don't have any information that we could prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. would commit future acts of sexual violence.
Mayer also says that the law can only be pursued if the person is still in custody, and this man was not. Pima County prosecutors have tried and failed to get the law broadened.
It is not fair to my son that he is a victim and the person that did this to him is nothing happens to him. He just goes on with his life.
All right, listen to this. According to the Pima County Attorney's Office, there have been 12 cases just like this in the last 5 years, crimes including murder and sexual assault. Prosecutors say they will keep working with lawmakers to address this, and Kristi's kids will stay on. Steve, that former DCS worker came to Tucson from Liberia. He lives in a Habitat for Humanity home on the far southeast side and was fired from the Department of Child Safety after video surfaced showing an alleged abuse of power. His client had set up hidden cameras in her home because she says she needed proof. Exclusive video in my Kristi's Kids investigation. Kristi's Kids isn't identifying this mother of two who had her daughters removed 2 days before Christmas because she's an alleged victim of sexual assault. We'll just call her Stephanie. And we also aren't identifying the former DCS case manager at this time. It is clear in the 7 minutes of edited hidden camera video, Stephanie is not comfortable.
I'll get used to it. You just have to give me a little.
Off camera, Stephanie says the case manager kissed and groped her.
This is because I want my kids to come home. But this is a big deal. Did you bring my kids home? Okay.
Putting her bra back on, the negotiation continues. He says, Stephanie tells Kristi's kids there were a total of 3 inappropriate encounters. No intercourse, but she says he did put his mouth and hands all over her body.
Just work with me. I guarantee you, I will hopefully eventually open up with this. I'm terrified and I'm nervous and I don't want to make you feel any awkward or anything like that. I know this is to make you happy. So I don't want to say stuff because I don't want to make it any worse, but I just don't want to make my situation any. No, that won't happen. I promise.
Stephanie says this was their second encounter, 8 days after he was introduced as her new caseworker. After the first alleged encounter, January 26th, Stephanie told her counselor, who encouraged her to get evidence. So she bought an iPod and started recording home visits. Kristi's kids counted Stephanie's repeated concerns, saying twice that she didn't want to upset him, 7 times that she was scared, and 10 times saying that she was only doing this to get her kids home. Stephanie's daughters were taken because she was caught growing marijuana in her home. She has a medical marijuana card, but she's not allowed to cultivate.
It's okay. It's okay. I just wanted to bring my kids home.
I sat down with Stephanie and her attorney, who say the caseworker orchestrated a deal.
If I wanted my kids back, I had to comply with what was asked of me, and I needed to make sure that he wrote a good report.
And what did that entail? What did you have to do?
I took it as he wanted me to give him sexual favors.
With video and audio like this in hand, Stephanie went to Tucson Police February 5th. There was a confrontation call.
You've been assaulting me for a long time, and I'm not going to let it keep going on if you don't bring me my kids back. It was your end of the bargain, and you promised me.
Okay. And the point is, you are doing well, and that's why we're moving.
The next day, the case manager was fired by DCS. About 5 weeks after that, Stephanie's 7- and 8-year-old daughters were returned. But still, police hadn't filed charges. To this day, the case remains open. Stephanie got a restraining order and waited until April 14th to hire an attorney. In the notice of claim, she's naming the case manager, the director of DCS, and the attorney general, and she says she'll settle for $1.2 million. She says what happened ruined her life.
I lay on the couch and watch TV until I lose vision and I fall asleep. I can't look at my front door without thinking about that man walking through it.
Kristi's kids wanted to hear from the case manager himself, so we went to his door. His wife said he was at work, but she had no problem answering our questions.
I don't know about it. Abusing people, I don't know about that.
It's a lie, you say it's a lie.
That's what I said, yeah.
She says she's been with him for 15 years, married though just last year. They have 3 children. He's a family man, not the kind of man to do something like this. She believes it was a setup.
You don't believe that he's at all at fault?
I didn't believe it, yeah.
I don't think anybody in that position would say that that's consensual. I was doing whatever I could to protect my family and make sure anything further happened to my children.
Anyone who sees how comfortable he is with what he's doing would believe that this is not the first time that he's ever done this.
According to DCS, he was first hired back in 2007, so he's had years on the job. If you think that caseworker has abused his power with you, Stephen Weeks, Stephanie's attorney, wants to hear from you. Meantime, we did ask Tucson Police for an on-camera interview, but we were told there's very little they can say since it's an open case. We'll keep you posted. How do you feel about anybody, under any circumstance, slapping a child in daycare?
I would be so upset about it.
Yeah, Steve, Amy said Sophia contacted Kristi's kids concerned about the condition of our city parks. 2 in particular, there's Michael Perry and Jesse Owens. So how bad are they? Kristi's kids investigated for you.
Live at 6.
Well, you may have seen it on social media. Twin sisters Jocelyn and Shaylin Spurlock of Aurora, Indiana, died earlier this month in the care of their grandmother.
So tell me about that cause.
Well, Season for Hope, we're in our 5th year, and we've been collecting for 5 years for families across southern Arizona in need, children especially, for the Gospel Rescue Mission, Toys for Tots, and the Community Food Bank of Southern Arizona. Today we're collecting toys, and the box is overflowing.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, it's great. I met a 3-year-old little boy named Cohen, and this is what the spirit of Season for Hope is all about. He gave me his own personal little car, or plane, what am I thinking? He gave it to me. It's his, and he just gave it to me. He wanted me to have it. That's what it's all about. So sweet. Thank you, Cohen. As a mom and a journalist, I find it's my job to look out for the kids. Here's the deal. Life vests are critical at the lake, and they can be lifesavers at the swimming pool, too. But not just any life vest. Edgar, if you would zoom in, let's show them. Experts say it's gotta be U.S. Coast Guard approved. Hi there, it's Kristi Tedesco with KVOA News 4 Tucson, and I'm here to do the Ice Water Challenge. I got called out by Lieutenant Matt Ronstadt with Tucson Police. Thank you so much, my fellow Amphi-Panther. I'm going to do the challenge today, but I'm also going to make a donation to my charity of choice, which is the Kristi's Kids Tucson Values Teachers School Supplies Drive.